So he says, I'm writing this to you so that you might, one, have fellowship, but also joy amongst Christians. But then he says this also. He says, I'm writing this so that you can stop habitual sin, the you plural, because there are Christians that and I talk to them all the time, and you probably have talked to some who I keep hitting my head against this one sin, this one stronghold, this one barrier, this one addiction, this one thing that I can't break through. And this is what John says. He says, my dear children, this is in chapter 2, I write this to you so that you will not sin. But, or as I would say, however, if anybody does sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ, the righteous one. He is the atoning sacrifice for our sins, and not only for ours, but the sins of the whole world. So he's saying that, hey, I'm writing this to you so that you don't engage in those sinful practices that separate us from God. However, if you do mess up and you do sin, he says we have an advocate, Jesus Christ, that we can go to help us from that sin. He also later is not just going to talk about habitual sin, but sin, because there were people saying, well, I don't need a relationship with God because I have no sin in my life, and he's going to call them out and say that's not true. But this also doesn't mean that Christians are sinless, that we're perfect, that we're never going to mess up, that we're never going to make a mistake. But it does mean that Christians should sin less, that we should sin a lot less than we did before we entered into a relationship with God through Jesus Christ. And he's going to call out people who were like, well, I can keep doing the same thing. And he's like, no, you can't, because if Jesus says, thou shalt not, and you're like, but I'm still gonna, then maybe you need to question your relationship with Jesus.